I just gained 11 pounds of lean mass in the past 17 weeks. In this video, I'll break down exactly how I did it, including some very unconventional methods that many fitness influencers would say were impossible. Things like eliminating an entire food group, only eating twice a day with no snacks, and only drinking water. By the end of this video, I would have busted some common bulking myths, and this could be the key to you finally unlocking your own transformation. If you want to learn more about getting lean before going on a bulk, then my Fight Club Physique program is in the description. And a word of warning before we start. This is a longer, unedited video without the cuts every 5 seconds. I'm confident your attention spans will be able to handle it. And if they can, you'll be rewarded with 35 minutes of great info. So let's go. So let's get into the nitty-gritty details that I'm sure you're after. So basically what I found out is that there's only one target that you need when it comes to bulking, also with cutting as well. So I just try and simplify it as much as possible. And that target for me is a 0.2 to 0.5 kilogram increase in weight per week. And basically how I measure that is just by weighing myself every day. Every morning, fasted, I'd step on the scales before I've drank anything, before I've eaten anything, and I just weigh myself, and then I basically take a 7-day average, and then that's like my weight for the week, and then I'll compare that week on week, and if the difference each week is 0.2 to 0.5 kilograms, then I know that I'm in target and that I don't really need to change anything. And if it's outside of that target, that's when I know that something needs to change. So if I'm under, then I know that I need to try and eat more. And if I'm over, then I know that I need to try and pull things back, or maybe like increase or decrease cardio. I don't really do too much cardio, to be honest. I'm recovering from ACL surgery, so quite limited as to what I can do, but I've never done too much cardio anyway, to be honest. I think walking is more than enough. So for this particular bulk, I set out to gain around about 14 kilograms. So I started the year at 71 kilos and I wanted to get up to 85 by the end of the year. So I kind of reverse engineered it and figured out how much weight I need to gain like per month and just kind of make sure I'm within that range. And 4 months in, I'm at 76 kilos. So I figured out that I needed to gain around 1.2 kilos per month. So that's like, I'm perfectly on target at the moment, which is great. My last bulk, so this is my second ever bulk, or like doing it properly. Last year, between like May and September, I think, I did a bulk and I ended up putting on quite a bit more than I was hoping, but I didn't have this weekly target. So I ended up putting on too much weight too quickly. And that was around 0.7 kilograms per week on average. And I just kept like, I was just kind of soft. I got up to 82 kilos and then I got ill and then I needed surgery and stuff like that. So I ended up falling all the way back down to around 70 by the end of the year, which is frustrating, but I got to go again. So I'm hoping this bulk will last longer. I'm going for the whole year. And all the photos which you'll see are with no pump. They're fasted, so they're taken like first thing in the morning. And everyone else online seems to manipulate their before and after photos like quite a bit. So their before photo, it won't be in great lighting with no pump on. And then in the after picture, they suddenly look like they're very tanned and, they'll get a pump on and it's just like, it's not, better lighting as well. It's not really a fair like comparison. And I get why people do it, but I just want to try and, be like honest on this channel and what is actually achievable from most people. So I try and make my transformation shots as equal as possible. And yeah, that's everything when it comes to lighting, fasted, pump, everything like that. So I weigh in every day, track it on a Google Sheet, and yeah, it basically turns it into a game. And I just make all my decisions based off data and not emotions, which I think is where a lot of people kind of get stuck, because they might try and rely on what they see in the mirror, or they might just weigh themselves like once a week and not actually track like week to week what's happening. So yeah, I definitely recommend weighing every day, sticking with this one target. Like that's it, just keep it simple. And that's what really works for me so far this year in the first 4 months. And it's going to be exactly what I continue to do for the rest of 2025. So let's have a look at training now. So this year I have been running a push-pull legs rest split. So it's basically, I kind of see it as a 4-day split really, because, you might think that push-pull legs rest, push-pull legs rest is like training 6 days a week, but it actually works out to be like 5.25 sessions per week. So that's just because of the way the days fall. But yeah, it's basically 3 days on, 1 day off. I've been doing 3 to 4 sets per exercise because I'm bulking. I want to do more volume than when I was cutting. If you've watched some of my videos before, you might have seen that I do recommend like lower volume, higher intensity training, maybe like 2 sets or 3 for most exercises, just training 3 times per week, going to failure on pretty much every exercise. I think that's a really efficient way to train, especially when cutting. And if you're new to the gym and you haven't built up the habit yet, like trying to go straight in, training 5 or 6 times a week with like higher volume, longer sessions is pretty tough. So yeah, I've been doing 3 to 4 sets per exercise, which is more. And I just do the last set to failure. I don't do all of them because I want to make sure I get plenty of volume in. And if I was going to failure on every set, then there's no way that I would be able to get the amount of volume that I want every week. So it's kind of like a correlation. So if you have low volume, you want high intensity, and vice versa. Like you can't really do both unless maybe you're on steroids. So I've been doing straight sets, which again is different to what I was doing on my cut. On my cut, I was doing reverse pyramid style training, where you start with the heaviest set first, you do your set, and then you wait a few minutes, drop the weight by about 10%, do your next set, which is usually like a rep or 2 more as well, and then do the same for the third set, dropping by 10%. So for this bulk, I've actually been doing straight sets, which means that you don't change the weight on each set. So if you were to do straight sets and go to failure on the first set, well, you would be in a bit of trouble because you got 2 or 3 more sets to do. So usually the first set feels kind of nice, and then the third set is like a bit of a struggle. You might have like 1 rep in reserve, and then the fourth or like final set, just go until you cannot push anymore. And I recommend if you're not a beginner, then you should be going to failure on at least 1 set every exercise. And then I have a rep range for each exercise. So let's say if I was doing like bench press and the rep range was like 6 to 8 reps. So once I'd hit the top of the range, so the 8 reps on all the sets, then I would increase the weight the next session, just by like 2.5 kilos or like 5 pounds, for example. And then, yeah, just keep doing that. And then once you up the weight, then you might go back to the start of the rep range. So you might just do like 6 reps or, however many. On the Strong app, one thing that's great about it, that's the app I use to track my lifts, is that it works out your like total volume and compares it session by session, so you can really like compare accurately if you're actually progressively overloading, which is great. So my workout split as well, I've been doing this for the first time actually, is having kind of like a split. So I have 2 different push workouts, 2 different pull workouts, and then I only have 1 leg workout, but you could do it with that as well. So how my workouts go is I'll do push 1, pull 1, legs, rest, push 2, pull 2, legs, rest. So it kind of helps to keep things interesting. And I basically do the same push or pull workout every 8 days. And I've never really tried this before, but I'm quite enjoying it. It keeps things like fresher. I've been doing the same workout plan for 4 months now. And I think if I had just stuck with doing like the same push and pull leg workout like twice a week, I probably would have got bored of it and wanted to like swap it up. But I think this really helps with the longevity, and that's good for me personally, because I used to get like what I call bodybuilder ADHD quite a bit, and that's where you have this set program that you want to follow. Let's say it's a push pull legs, and then you're running it for a couple of weeks, and then you might see this new piece of information on like YouTube or from like an influencer or something, or reading a book, and it will kind of say something a bit different to what you're currently doing, and you'll want to incorporate that into your current plan. And then you just keep tweaking it. And I just found that I was constantly changing my program, constantly changing like what my goals were. And if you're going to the gym and you're following the principles, which I'll speak about later, then you will still make progress, but it can really slow things down if you're like constantly changing it. So that was one thing that really helped me. My sessions are around 75 to 90 minutes, which are quite long for a lot of people. I'm at the point now where I really enjoy going to the gym. So doing sessions this long, it doesn't feel like a chore. Like I'm glad to be there. Whereas when I first started out, and what I recommend for like beginners or people who are trying to cut down or build the gym habit initially, is to go for like shorter sessions, like 45 minutes to an hour. And once you've then built the habit, then you can start to increase and do more sessions per week, and also do longer sessions as well. And I find that to get enough volume in that I want to build the muscle, this amount of time is kind of required, like 5 times a week. Another thing which I've been doing is training what I call the t-shirt muscles. So these are the muscles that are on show when you're wearing a t-shirt. So they are the neck, traps, and the forearms. So these aren't really spoken about often when it comes to like gym programs, but I think it really helps to build like that aesthetic, Brad Pitt kind of physique. You'll notice in the film he's got these 3 muscles are really well developed, and even though he's not the biggest, like he's only 70 kilos or 155 pounds in the film at 5'11", but he just has muscles like in the right areas. And if you neglect these 3 muscles, then you could have a lot of like overall muscle, but it just kind of looks a bit weird. So definitely remember to train those. For neck, I do that at home. I basically do like neck curls with a weight plate. For traps, I do barbell shrugs at the moment at the gym. I was doing dumbbell shrugs, but yeah, any kind of shrug exercise is good to incorporate into your workout program. Especially, I aim for around like 6 sets per week, or every 8 days. And yeah, that seems to be growing them well. And forearms, I have a gripper somewhere around here. It must be in a bag somewhere. It's basically, yeah, it's like a hand gripper where you just squeeze it, and every time it clicks, like that's 1 rep. And I just try and like basically progressively overload that. I started with a 50-pound gripper, and then once I could do 20 full reps on each hand, then I went up to the 100 pounds, and I just keep going up and up like that. And I try and do that like every day, but I forget sometimes. As long as you can do it a few times a week, you'll start to make progress. So one thing that I've found is that the actual training program that you follow doesn't matter as much as you might think. So there are principles of training which are far more important, and as long as you follow these principles, then the training program, like the actual exercises that you do for how many reps, how many sets, what intensity, that kind of thing, it kind of becomes like secondary. So let's load up these principles to follow. So the first principle is to do with volume. So if you want to build muscle, then you need to get enough volume in every week, because if you're doing like 3 sets of chest a week, then that's not really going to build too much muscle. So for me, what I've kind of found is that 10 to 20 sets per body part per week is around like the sweet spot, particularly for like the bigger muscles like chest, shoulders, back, legs. So the program which I've been running this year has 22 sets of chest, and this is for like 8 days, by the way, because I do push pull legs rest, push pull legs rest. See how that's like 8 days, not 7, so it might look a little bit more just because it's not a week, it's 8 days. So 22 sets of chest, 18 sets of shoulders, 23 sets of back, 12 sets of biceps, and 12 sets of triceps, and then also 30 sets of legs. So for me, I'm bulking, I'm wanting to put on muscle, I'm eating plenty of food, I'm able to do like that much volume. If you are on a cut and you are in a calorie deficit, then this might be a bit more of a struggle. But for bulking, the main thing is just getting enough volume in and the right intensity as well. So the second principle is just having like the correct form. You don't want to be like ego lifting, lifting too much weight than you can handle, and then you're engaging a whole bunch of other muscles that shouldn't be engaged. And yeah, it's important to just stick with a weight that you can perform the exercises correctly, like for safety as well, trying to prevent injury. Like if you're pushing too hard, pushing too heavy, and your form is like suboptimal, then it can lead to injury. And if you're not sure on the correct form of an exercise, what I usually do is, like, when I'm at the gym, I would go on my phone and get up like a YouTube short. Just type in, like skull crusher form, and just watch a quick like 1-minute short. And it's great because like I'm already there, like I've got the bar in my hand and I can just practice it like straight away, rather than if you're looking up the form when you're at home, then you have to wait until you're next like at the gym to actually like try it. So I think that's a good little tip, is having your phone and just looking up the correct form on YouTube Shorts. Training close enough to failure. So this is key, because without giving your muscle enough of a stimulus, then it's not gonna give it the opportunity to grow. So there's usually a correlation between intensity and volume, which I was speaking about earlier. So maybe if you're like a bit pushed for time and you can only get to the gym like 3 times per week for 45 minutes, then that's going to be low volume training. So you'd want to increase the intensity on all of those sets. Whereas if you're going for the split, which I'm running now, to bulk, if I was going flat out on every set, then I just burn out like pretty quickly. So I go for a lower intensity, and I just go for to failure on the last set. And how do you know if you're going hard enough or if your intensity is high enough? A kind of good rule of thumb is that your last rep should be much slower than your first rep. So, your first reps might be quite quick, and then when you're really struggling on a rep, it's basically you can't get the weight up as quick as you were before, and like you're really struggling. And the last rep, I usually aim for like 3 or 4 seconds. If I do it quicker than that, then it probably means that I've got another rep left in the tank. So yeah, just much slower than your first, and yeah, around like 3 to 4 seconds. So let's now talk about nutrition. So there's quite a few myths, I think, surrounding nutrition, which hopefully will be challenged in this video. So first myth is that carbs are needed for performance in the gym. Now, I haven't been eating carbs really since October, so probably 6 months now. And since I cut the carbs, my training has actually improved like so much. Like I used to get these real, well, it was when I was working an office job, and I would usually train after work because I wasn't really a morning person. I didn't really want to go to the gym before work, so I'd always go after. And by the time it got to the end of the work day, like I was just so shattered. But I'd have to go to the gym, and my workouts were just so hit and miss. And so often I would not even complete the session. So I'd have this workout program of like 6 or 7 exercises, and so often I just would not be able to finish it because I was just kind of like so shattered, like I didn't have much energy at all. And by cutting out the carbs, I feel like my energy is much more stable throughout the day. So even now, if I go for a session, well, I now train like in the evening most of the time at around like 7:30, so like after the peak time. And it's usually like the last thing I do is go to the gym, and my sessions are great. And even if I go in the morning sometimes or in the afternoon, like no matter what time of day I go, I find that my training is just so much better than it was before. So anyone who tells you that you need carbs to drive like performance in the gym, they probably haven't tried not eating carbs before. Sure, if you are used to eating carbs and suddenly you stop like today and then you try and go tomorrow, yeah, you're gonna feel not great, like you don't have much energy. It does take some time for your body to adapt, usually around like 2 to 3 weeks. But at that point, your energy levels will be back to where they were before, and from there, they will get higher and higher. So for people who do eat carbs, yes, carbs is important for performance, but it's not necessary. And if you're someone who doesn't eat carbs, well, I find in my experience anyway, my training is much better than it was before. Second myth for bulking and putting on muscle is that you need to eat, 4, 5, 6 meals a day, have lots of protein shakes and snacks. And again, like, it's not necessarily the case. Sure, it works for some people, but for the past 6 months, I've eaten 2 meals per day with no snacks and just drinking water, no protein shakes. And again, like, maybe if you're eating carbohydrates, you get that spike in insulin and you kind of feel full for a bit. Then a couple hours later, when that's worn off, then you feel hungry again. So again, it kind of goes back to eating carbs. Like, if you're eating a lot of carbs and you're trying to bulk, then yeah, you probably will need to eat like 4 or 5 times a day, because you'll have a meal and then a couple hours later, no matter how much you had, you're going to be hungry again. So it kind of goes hand in hand, but I hope this transformation has proven that you can bulk on just 2 meals, no protein shakes needed, no liquid calories. Like, it is more than possible. Next is counting calories. I haven't counted calories in at least a few months now, probably longer. I don't need to count calories. I'm just able to eat intuitively, and I just eat when I'm hungry and I stop eating when I'm full. Like, I think that's kind of how it's supposed to be. And because I'm just eating like whole foods, animal products, I can kind of go off my intuition and my taste. So if I'm eating what I would consider to be, optimal human diet, then you can listen to your body, because, for example, like your taste signals, if you're eating something, if I'm eating like a steak or some like ground beef or something, I'm eating, and then suddenly it like stops tasting good, then that's a signal from my body that, I've had enough to eat and that I'm full, and that's when I can just stop. Whereas if you consume foods that we're not necessarily designed to eat, like processed foods or foods with like sugar or like grains and other carbohydrates, then those signals are like kind of blocked, and it's far easier to overeat. Like, if you try and have like 2,000 calories of steak in one go, for most people it's going to be very difficult. But if you have 2,000 calories of, like a Domino's pizza, that's like half a pizza, and it's pretty easy to take down. So yeah, for me, I don't count calories. But if you are eating carbohydrates and you want to be more flexible with your diet and include like sweets and like fruit, even like alcohol occasionally, then sure, it's great to count calories. But again, it depends on what you're eating. Next is like force feeding, eating big to get big. I think for some people it may be the case. I remember when I first attempted a bulk like a few years ago, it didn't go very well, like, at all. I just ended up gaining way too much weight because I was like force feeding myself, like, and I was just gaining so much fat. But if you go back to what I was saying earlier about the 0.2 to 0.5 kilogram increase in body weight per week, then honestly, you probably don't need to force feed yourself. And if you are force feeding yourself, then you're probably gaining a lot more fat than you need to. So just go off your weekly weight, and if you're in that 0.2 to 0.5 range, then you're golden. You don't need to count calories. You don't need to force feed yourself. And another myth that I hear often is that it's good to have like a variety of meals. And what I've found is that almost everyone who I follow online who is in shape, um, they just eat the same things every day. It just makes things so much easier. You can switch your brain off. You don't have to think about, like, what am I going to have today, or what ingredients do I need to buy at the shop. Like my food shop at the moment it takes like 5 minutes once I'm at the shop. I just buy 7 steaks, 7 packs of ground beef, 3 packs of cheese, a salt, and some butter, like, and some eggs. And that's it. It's just the same like every week. And people might think that, it's like really restrictive, but I kind of see it the opposite. Like, it's just a real freedom, not having to think every day about, what am I going to have, or, what we're going to order in, or, what ingredients do we need this week. And yeah, I just think it's very freeing. Like, that's the way I see it. And it's not something which I really have to think about. I know that the macros are going to be on point. I know that I like everything that I eat. I don't get bored of what I eat. And I think there is a meal plan out there for everyone where they can just eat the same things every day and not get bored. And that's certainly like what I've found. That's quite a common thing that people say. Oh, don't you get bored of just eating the same things every day? And no, like, I don't really, particularly my meal one, which I'll talk about now. So every day I have a 425-gram steak and a 5-egg cheesy omelette, and that's usually cooked in ghee. So yeah, I mean, I look forward to this meal every day. I usually have it like 4 or 5 hours after I wake up. I don't feel hungry when I wake up in the morning. I like to do like some productive things first before I eat. And yeah, it's super quick to make. Like, a steak doesn't take too long. And then I usually let a steak rest for like 5 minutes after I've cooked it. And during that time, I just do the omelette again, which is super quick. And then meal 2, I have like minced beef, I call it, or ground beef, with cheese. I only have it with cheese just because it is a bit bland without the cheese. And I basically eat that until I'm full. Like, as I was mentioning earlier, I just eat intuitively. Like, when I get hungry, I'll eat, and I'll just stop like when I'm full. And as long as I keep an eye on my weight, I found that that's just the perfect like meal plan. And that's what's helped me achieve this 4-month transformation so far. And everything's just been perfectly arranged, like every week, just by eating this. And I thoroughly enjoy it as well. I guess it's not for everyone, and do your own research on different diets, whether you want to like cut out carbs and just go for pure like animal products. It's what's worked for me. When I first found out about this kind of way of eating, everyone says just give it a go for 30 days, see how you feel. And that's what I did, and I haven't looked back since. So if you want to achieve a similar transformation, then highly recommend it. If you're sitting above like 15% body fat, maybe you're like 25% body fat, before you go on a bulk, I definitely recommend cutting down first. You want to have like visible abs really before you go on a bulk, else you'll just get soft like way too quickly, and you won't look very aesthetic. Whereas I believe it's good to cut down first. It doesn't take as long. Losing fat is much quicker than gaining muscle, so we can just get that out of the way first. It might take like anywhere from 4 to 16 weeks depending on your start point. get those visible abs first, and then you can get on a plan like this where you can start to slowly build muscle. So yeah, that's everything for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.